All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Martin Salama, who is the architect of the Warriors Life Code. Martin, how you doing?
Great, Timmy. Nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Of course, man, we're excited to have you, and we like to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
All right. So, as you said, I'm the architect of the Warriors Life Code, and for me, the word life is really what everything my world revolves around. And I took the word life about almost 10 years ago and turned it into an acronym for live incredibly full every day. And that just doesn't mean I'm being happy. It means I'm happy and I'm living a meaningful life. You could be happy with that, not doing anything meaningful, and you could be in a world of meaningful things, but not be happy. So it's about encompassing most of those things and live incredibly full every day.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And so you were just talking about you can be happy, but not be doing meaningful stuff, or you could be doing meaningful stuff and not being happy. How do you merge those two?
Well, it's not easy, but it's about understanding where your life stands at any moment.
Mm.
Are you doing things that are being productive for the world, for yourself, for whoever? That's the meaningful part. The happy part is, are you looking at every day and saying, I'm enjoying the day no matter what happens? Of course, things will go up and down. Of course, there will be tragedies in your life. Of course, there will be adversities. But it's how do you face them and how do you come through the other side? And that's where the warrior comes in, the warrior's life code. The warrior takes you from being somebody who I like to say is being someone who worries about everything or is a warrior and becomes a warrior. And the reason I use the cards is my Brooklyn accent usually screws up that with those two words. So,
Yeah,
so warrior with an O to warrior with an A.
I got you. I got you. Cool, cool. Thanks for diving into that a little bit for us. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do for fun?
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I love to do, and this came as a reason, believe it or not, as a result of getting divorced, is I love to cook.
Mm.
And not only do I love to cook, I think what I love even more is watching people in get together, family and friends get together, enjoy time with each other while enjoying my food. And it came about because in 2008, when the world fell apart financially, my world fell apart financially, and everything right after that just went like a house of cards.
Mm.
Uh, I was working on a project with my wife for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar health club and tennis center in New Jersey by the Jersey Shore. And we had put 5 years in because we had to find the land. We had to get the feasibility study. We had to secure the land, get the architect, the engineers, go to the city, get their approvals, and then say, oh, civil engineers, find out what the parking is going to be like, what's it going to do to the traffic and all that. And I'm putting money in and investors' money. And if it happened in 2006 or 2007, the bank was like, yeah, we're ready for you, man. Just get the approval. We'll give you the money. I almost felt like I was walking into Costco. And, that's the way the banks were back in 2006, 2007. It's like they'll give you samples,
Yeah.
like in Costco. That's how they were handing out money. I went in for a refinance my mortgage that I had done a few years earlier. Oh, 500. Hey, we'll give you 750 now. Like
Hmm. Yep.
that's what it was like. But luck would have it for me, it would be the summer of 2008. And I went into the bank. I'm like, okay, guys, we finally got all the approvals from the city, from the state. We're ready to go. And they're like, yep, we're not lending right now. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? My life has been in this for the last 5 years. Well, things are slowing down. A month later, Bernie Madoff, the subprime loans, the entire world fell apart. And, the subprime loans were all based on fake numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, we think, yeah. So I was caught up in that, as were many other people. And it took me about a year to get through that part and say, okay, what am I going to do now? And when I came out the other side through some therapy and some coaching, I decided, you know what? I want to be a life coach.
Mm.
But about 2 months before it was time for me to start coach training, my wife on our 24th anniversary said, I'm done. I want a divorce. I was like, oh my God, why does everything keep happening to me? But I said, you know what? I already made this plan. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to become a life coach anyway. And right before I went, they sent us an email with a bunch of books to read. They said, read a couple of these books. And one of them was The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Did you ever read that book, Timmy?
I did, yeah.
Well, when I read it and I saw the second agreement, don't take anything personally, I felt like he was talking to me and telling me a secret that the whole world had been telling me my entire life. But until that moment, I wasn't ready to hear it. It was don't take anything personally. I was like, what? You mean I don't have to have the world on my shoulders? I don't have to be worried what somebody else is going to say about me or think that I'm not making everybody happy? And then I went to coach training and they're like, you don't have to be who you think you have to be. You can be whoever you want to be. So I was like, oh, wow. And I went through it and I went through my divorce, which was a very difficult thing because I never thought I was going to be divorced. And a lot of that had to do with my lack of self confidence, lack of self esteem, and fear that nobody would ever love me. But what I found out going through coaching is I didn't like myself. So how am I going to anybody else to like me?
Yeah.
So now here I am. I get divorced. I moved to New York, about an hour away from my children, and I'm Orthodox Jewish. So Friday night's a big night for us. We have Shabbat dinner.
Hmm.
And my kids would come in and I'd go to my mom, I'd go to my sisters. And then they came to me, Dad, we don't always want to go to grandma. We don't always want to go to the aunts. Can we sometimes stay home on Friday night? I'm like, all right, let me learn how to cook. And it became one of the things I learned in coaching, and I coach people, you've got to become adaptable. You got to adapt to what's going around. And that's what I did. And it became such a passion for me that I love cooking. And, I'm very happy to say 5 years ago, I got married again to another woman. And it was through a lot of self soul searching and realizing what was working for me, what wasn't. And she's a great cook, but she hates to cook and she works in corporate America. So I'm the cook in the house. I'm the one that everybody does things. Matter of fact, her family's like, we only go to Martin's house for Thanksgiving.
There we go. There we go.
So a long answer to your short question.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to know you a little bit more, which is great. That's why we ask
Yeah.
these questions.
Yeah.
And so, do you have particular things that you cook for Shabbat dinner that you are specialized in, or do you just love to cook everything now?
Well, for sure, I love to cook everything. But about 5 or 6 years ago, when the smoking world, the meat smoking world, starting to do things like pellet grills, I was
Mhm.
like, ooh, you mean I don't have to stand there the entire time and stoke the wood and do the whole thing? I could do this pellet thing and just like set it and come back every once in a while and check it. I'm like, I'm in for that. So
Yeah.
I love to smoke meats, briskets and the dino ribs and stuff like that. I just love it. And then I come from a Middle Eastern background. So we have some great Middle Eastern dishes that we love to cook. My family loves when I make like stuffed onions or something called kibbeh hamda, which is basically these little meatballs with a bunch of vegetables in it and some mint and some lemon. They just love it.
Mm, I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, there we go. Okay. So we got that you love to cook. We got a little bit about your story, what kind of drove you to be a life coach. So were you like full-time real estate investor before the '08 crash, or were you and your wife just kind of doing that on the side and you guys both had corporate jobs, or how was that working?
Right. So I was always an entrepreneur from when I was a teenager. My
Mm,
dad had his own businesses and I worked for him. And then as I got older, I worked well, my father set me up in a business with someone else. And then after a while, I opened up my own business and I was an importer bringing in costume jewelry from overseas. And I did that for many years. And then in the late 1990s, I went back to working with my dad and we did some things together. And when he passed away, I was like, okay, now I got to do some of my own stuff. And some of it was real estate, some of it was investing in other companies. And then I happened to have just closed the company. And my wife said, lately I've been playing tennis here in New Jersey, where we live by the shore. And she's like, I can never find anywhere to play. Thank God she was able to be a stay-at-home mom, a housewife, take care of our four children. I said, what do you mean you can't find anywhere to play? There's so few courts around and so few time slots. I'm playing 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Mm.
So I said, oh, okay. And that set us on the thing. Now, deep down inside, a lot of this, I got to tell you, Tim, I am not an athlete. I can't play basketball. I can't play tennis. I can't play football, anything. I used to play football. I was on the line, run after the guy with the football, that's
Yeah.
about it, but I'm just not an athlete. You could actually call me an athletic supporter. So she comes to me with this idea, and the back of my mind is I'm a people pleaser. I don't even realize that I'm a people pleaser, but I want to make her happy. And I'll go out of my way to make sure I can make her happy. So she's like, okay, let's do this. All right, great. And we went on this 5-year journey to do that.
Mm, I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. And so tell us a bit more about your motivation. You've been entrepreneurial, you went through the crash, you came out after some coaching and some therapy and decided to be a life coach. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day? Is it that life motto, or would you put some other words to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what made me even decide to become a life coach? Back in this was like 2010. Okay. I look back at my life and I said, what did I love doing? I have to reinvent myself now. It's 2008 is over. I've gone through a year plus. It's the end of 2009, going into 2010. What do I love to do? Because I've got to start all over again. And I said, I never really loved being that quote unquote entrepreneur. The ups and downs of it, the need to go and be a salesman and sell your product by selling yourself, all that stuff was hard. And I didn't love doing it. So I said, but one of the things I always did, and I credit my parents with this, I was always involved in community events, fundraisers or yeah, I, kids, organizations in the community, to the point that when I was living in New Jersey, as I mentioned, I'm Orthodox Jewish. We didn't have a synagogue that was walking distance, and we don't get in the car on Saturday. Unless I wanted to walk a half an hour, 40 minutes to go to the closest synagogue, which is what I did for the first couple of years. So we turned around and we opened up a synagogue, and I was the leader of it. I was the founder for the first like 12, 13 years, which was a beautiful thing. And today there's over 400 families in that synagogue. So I'm very proud about what started there. But what I realized was I was always involved in community events, and I was always one of the leaders. And what made me such a good leader and what I loved about it was people would come in and say, I don't know how much time I can give. I have this, I have that. I don't know. And I don't even know what I can do. Oh, come on in. Let's talk. Let's figure out how you could help us. And I would see their potential and help them figure it out, which is really what a life coach is. So when I was going through this, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a life coach.
Yeah.
And I got motivated by that. I love to watch people. I love when they get that aha moment and they see their shift in themselves. And that's what happened to me while I was going through coach training. I became somebody totally different because I accepted who I was before and recognized what had to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Well, cool, man. Let's hear some more about your dreams and goals. What's your vision for your life coaching business and the rest of your life?
Yeah. So I say going back, my dreams and goals when it comes to my life coaching is for people to understand that what you think your world is like is all because that's what you think it is. That's what you see. But if you could understand that if you see it in a different way, it can come to you in a different way. And I talked about earlier that I kept on saying after my wife asked for the divorce, why is everything happening to me? It's because I was looking in the victim mode. I was looking to blame others. I was looking to say or to have conflict or whatever. Once I started to understand and shift that mindset from self-conscious to self-aware, I understood that I could have life happen through me
Mm.
instead of happen to me.
Yeah.
And, so for me, a big thing of what I want to do is help people recognize that they can go from self-conscious to self-aware. And I got to tell you, many people out there think they are self-aware, but really it's self-conscious. And it took me going through all this to recognize the difference. And one of the things I've done is I've come up with a card deck. And you can see it's called Warrior to Warrior. Again, O and A. Warrior. I'm worried to becoming a warrior. And in it is a card called self-aware versus self-conscious.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm just going to read a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
So self-consciousness comes from a place of negative energy, guilt, conflict, and doubt. Self-consciousness is more outward directed. It's being more concerned about what others are thinking of you and how the situation is going to affect you. You probably react to uncomfortable situations instead of respond. When you're self-conscious, you're questioning your decisions. Okay. That's a little more to it, but that's the basic idea. Self awareness comes from a place of positive energy, acceptance, contentment, self assuredness. Self awareness is more inward facing. You have an accurate and realistic understanding of how you are responding to situations and how you feel about things. So you see the shift, you see the difference there?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me that is like the most tangible for me to hold on to is like self-conscious is like you experience something or you find out something about yourself and you start to judge it versus self-awareness is you start to accept it. And then from that launching point, the other outcomes kind of happen. Is how in my head I've seen it in my own life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And another deeper level of that is your ego comes into play
Hmm.
and you're reacting to everything. Whereas if you're in the self-awareness, it's about humility and just saying, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. How can I accept it
Yeah.
in my world?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I like that. I like that little shift between self-awareness and self-conscious because it's easy and it's also not a permanent shift. It's more of like something you gotta be aware of every
Right.
day. You gotta.
That's it. Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's what it's about. A lot of people, and I thought I was so self-aware until I started to peel away the layers of the onion, as it were,
Mhm.
and recognize that I was rationalizing that I was self-aware, but really I was self-conscious. And for me, going through life, I realized I was a people pleaser. And I would rationalize that the things I was doing was for the greater good.
Yep.
And since then, I've come up with that the word rationalize is really two words: rational lies.
Mm.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I got
I like
another
that.
card on that. All right.
I like that.
All right. So whenever you think what you might be doing goes against your own values, you will rationalize all the reasons why it's okay. What you're really doing is lying to yourself that it's rational to think that. They're nothing more than rational lies. You're giving yourself permission to lie for whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
And for example, you wake up in the morning and you go, you know what? I'm just too tired to exercise. I can't do it today. So is it really true? Or are you giving yourself the permission to say, okay, I don't have to exercise today?
Mm.
Are you rationalizing? Are you saying, and then, how many times do you start exercising, even though you don't want to, and you're about 10 minutes into it and you go, I'm so glad I did this.
Yeah. Most of the time, actually.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love it. I like the rational lies. Have you ever read The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman
of
Vincent?
course. Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah, yeah, love that book. And in that book, somewhere he says, I want you to stop being pessimistic or stop thinking how you think for a week and just be overly optimistic about everything you see. And you'll realize
That's
in a
right.
week that your realism was pessimism and that your optimism is realism. And I think there's something it's the same as the rational lies, right? Like,
Exactly. Exactly. And one of my mentors, her name is Genevieve Davis, says the world is as you see it.
mhm,
So if you want to see it with dark colored glasses and terrible, then that's what you're going to see. You're going to look for the problems. You're going to look for the excuses for the complaining. But if you change the glasses and put on rose colored glasses and look for the opportunities and look for the gratitude and be accepting about whatever's coming around, you're going to find so much more
yeah,
in that way.
absolutely. I love it. Well, tell us about some more dreams and goals that you have. Do you just want to help people understand that perspective fuels their life as a life coach, or there's some other things that you want to add to that list?
Well, there's no question that's at the top of the list.
Yep.
Okay. and that I want people to recognize that they have the power within themselves. Somebody once said, is this all there is? You hear people say that all the time. Is this all there is? And my answer to them is yes, but it's how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But so that's how I start. But for me, on a professional level, it's to get out that word that you hear it all the time. Have an attitude of gratitude. Be thankful. Be grateful for everything that's in your life. And as you do that, allow yourself to rid yourself of the complaining and all the other things. And this is all part of the things I talk about in my course, is that you could then turn around and then make that mental shift from why is everything happening to me to I love what's happening through me.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the top of the list. My dreams, of course, on a personal level, is to continue this and to have it where people want to recognize that they have the power within them. But on me personally, it's to continue to grow. Could I say that I'm at the end of my growth? I'll never be at the end of my growth. I'm always learning. And it's about getting out there and finding out what's great. 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to cut something, check something off of my bucket list. So I looked at my list. I said, okay, what's here that I want to do? And I said, I want to go skydiving. And my wife said, you better not tell me when you go because I don't want to know about this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I woke up in the morning. I left Sunday morning and we went sky. I didn't tell her. But right before I jumped out of the plane, I got onto a Facebook live stream and she's like, what the hell?
That is so funny. That is so funny. And did you enjoy it?
I loved every second of it. Somebody said, were you afraid? I said, not even a bit. I was excited throughout the whole thing. And when I landed, I was so happy. My stomach was a little bit up and down,
Yeah.
but it was good. And last night I saw what the funny story was. I decided to go and I wanted someone to go with me. So my stepson tells me, okay, I'm coming. I was like, great. Very out of his comfort zone. I'm like, great, beautiful. Come on. 2 days later, he calls me, goes, my friend heard I'm going. He wants to come with us. I'm like, all right, great. Let him come.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. Day of, well, it's happening on Sunday. Friday afternoon, my stepson comes to me and goes, I'm out. I can't do it. I'm afraid. I'm like, what about JoJo? He goes, JoJo's in. So me and JoJo, who's 21, jump in the car and we're Sunday morning and we go.
There we
And
go.
we do it, and we had such a blast. Later that evening, I was at at a wedding. His mother comes up to me. She goes, "I'm never speaking to you again."
Oh man.
So last night I was at a wedding and I saw JoJo and his girlfriend. I go, JoJo, we're going skydiving this summer. She turns to me. She goes, "What? I want to come."
That is so funny.
That's such a blast.
Yeah, no, that's epic. So skydiving. What are some other things you have on the bucket list that you want to cross off?
Let's see. I just put a new one on my bucket list this week. Is because I mentioned to you before we got on that I just released my book, Warrior to Warrior, which goes deep into what the cards talk about. The cards are the principle. This is deeper. I have a course on it too. Is I would love to be at a college graduation, speaking as the keynote speaker in a commencement of a college graduation. And I'm putting it out there in the world now. This is part of what I do is, put it out in the world. In 2 years from now, in 2025, I'll have graduated from Brooklyn College 40 years ago. I would love to be the keynote speaker at my 40th anniversary of graduating from Brooklyn College.
I gotcha. Okay. Brooklyn College
So,
keynote.
yeah, I mean, so for me, that's part of what I do. I ask the universe for what I want.
Mhm.
Then I start acting, doing the work. That's the ask part is like the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Acting is what are you going to do to get that? And then the last part, I call it the cycle of A's, ask, act. And the last one is attitude. Have an attitude of, I don't care about the outcome.
Mm.
Because when you do, you're like, oh my God, I really want this. you're sending to the universe, you're sending to God that lack mentality.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you're never going to get it. You might get it, just happen to be, but more often than not, you won't get it. And
Yeah.
you have to be ready to change the goals as you're going along because God's sending you a message. Okay, this is what you want. You may have to make course corrections along the way. Recently, somebody told me, I prayed to God. He didn't answer. I go, he did. He said no.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. There we go. I think what's interesting about that attitude piece is if you let yourself have the desperate mindset, I feel like it's when your ego gets involved of like, I really want this, and you're probably really wanting it to protect yourself from this or that, or because you're operating out of lack. And when you're doing that, your ego is notorious for like wanting to keep you in the same spot to be safe. And
Yeah.
so you're probably going to be taking action that while you think is pushing you in that direction, is probably actually working against you because of the intent that lies under it. And so that's why I like that attitude piece that you talked about.
Tim, so well said. So right on the money. Guys, what he just said, listen to it, rewind and listen to it. He's right on the money right there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I really like that point. And so the 3 A's for us: ask, action, attitude.
Right.
There we
Ask, act, and attitude. The cycle of A's.
go. I
Here
love
we
it.
go. No, wrong card. And why do I have it in a cycle? Wrong card again. Ooh, there it is. I have it in a cycle, in a circle. Why? Because they're
Yeah.
perpetuating. If you get into that motion of ask, act, and attitude, you'll keep finding other things. And you're asking while acting on something else, while having the attitude on something else, and it all self perpetuates.
Yep.
So I put it into the cycle mode.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
And it builds upon it. It builds upon it. And here's the thing I want very, very, very important point is when things start happening, okay, and you go, okay, it was a coincidence. No, no, no. That's the magic starting to happen. Accept it, recognize for what it is, don't get caught up in it, and keep going.
Yeah.
And get ready to make changes if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There we go. Well, Martin, what are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop right now to make some of these dreams and goals come true?
Okay. Well, as much as I'd like to say I'm mindful, I got to get more mindful and more present in the moment. As much as I try to be, lots of times I find myself not being as present as I should. And for me, mindfulness means being in the moment, recognize what's going on around you, appreciate those people that are around you, and be happy as where things are.
Mm.
So that's definitely one of them. And I would have to say the other one is um, stay persistent. Don't allow yourself to fall off the course.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a perfect example from a book I read. You talked about the power of positive thinking,
Yep.
right? Did you ever read Think and Grow Rich?
Yep.
Okay. Did you ever read his book that came out a year later that didn't come out until 70 years later?
Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, yeah.
Great book, isn't it?
Fantastic book.
And what does the devil talk about there? Intent. He doesn't use the word intent. He talks about drifting.
Mm-hmm.
He says, the drifters are the ones that I get because they're not keeping their intent. So that's it. Not for me to drift so much.
I love it. I love it. That drifting, man, that book was it hit different. And it didn't really, it talked about a lot of things in just a really nuanced way. Like, people
Yep.
might say it's common sense that if you go without intent, that it's hard to get something in life. But then you see how many people still don't address that aspect of their life. And I feel like if you read that book, it makes it come to life more for you.
Exactly right. And the crazy thing is, the devil tells him, "Oh, you're not going to publish this. You're
Mhm.
just not going to do it. It's going to be too crazy for the world to see." And then you find out his wife begged him not to publish it. And
Yeah.
they waited until years after she passed, 70 plus years later,
Yeah.
finally published a book
Yeah.
because that's how radical the ideas in it were back in the 30s.
Yeah. No, it's insane for sure. If you haven't read it, you should go read that book. Like I read some of Napoleon Hill's like other works, like Think and Grow Rich. I read The Laws of Success, but Outwitting the
Mhm.
Devil, it was just yeah, it just hit different. And
Yeah, yeah. I believe that you should read Think and Grow Rich first, and then read Outwitting the Devil.
yeah,
No, you could do it the other way, but I think the first one gives you the foundation to really embrace what he's going to talk about in Outwitting the Devil.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And I don't know, Outwitting the Devil, it like Think and Grow Rich laid the foundation for success, mindset, all that stuff. But Outwitting the Devil influenced just like my entire life, like my life perspective, really. Like some of the ideas it presented to me, I was like, oh wow. Like even when it started talking about like the Christian church and stuff, because I'm Christian and how the devil can use the church sometimes. I'm like, that's not too far off from like what you hear if you're in one Christian community and you see the divisiveness in the Christian community. So it's like,
Right?
dang, he might be using the church. Like I've just been missing it. So
It's kind of crazy.
it really is. It really is.
Absolutely. But yeah, 100%. And guys, I got to let you know, we did not set this up in advance.
No, definitely didn't. Well, awesome, Martin. So skills, more mindful and present in the moment, cutting out that drifting, and then a character trait you can develop is that persistence. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, it's persistence by doing what you say you want to do, acting it, but not allowing the emotion to get involved to take you and say, "Oh my God, this is not happening. Oh my God." That's where there's a fine line in that idea of persistence to the point where you're gonna drive yourself crazy to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how do you go about making sure that emotion doesn't get involved? Is it coming back to the being mindful and present in the moment, or is it something else that you need to employ to make sure the emotion
It,
doesn't?
it definitely starts with that. And one of the things I talk about in my course is build your emotional strength.
Mhm.
Okay. And what that is, many of us are reactors. We react to what comes to us. To me, I was a reactor. I overreacted to the point I was like a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
I would blow and then there would be fallout all over the place that I'd have to go back and fix. Right.
Yeah.
To and I would, many times it would be, okay, I'm sorry for what I did, but you did this and it's because of that. And this was going on. Come on. That's not really an apology. That's a rationalize,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Uh,
blaming it on somebody else, justifying what you're doing. So I came up with, and so it was a hot button for me, literally and figuratively. Okay. I mean, to the point when I was getting divorced, I was also going through coach training. And my wife would call me up. We weren't divorced yet. And she'd say, we were separated or whatever was going on. She goes, I don't want to fight, but now this was happening over the first 25 years of my marriage. I just never recognized before, but that what she was doing was she was hitting my button. She was hitting my hot button. Whether she was doing it consciously or subconsciously, it doesn't matter. Okay. Because it was really about me.
yeah.
So I had a choice at that moment. When she says, I don't want to fight, but okay, what am I going to do now? What I did was I would say, I'd put my gloves on figuratively and say, let's get ready to rumble.
Uh,
And I'd get into it and we'd have a fight. And she'd say, but I told you I didn't want to fight. You started the fight, blah, 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 blah. So once I recognized that that's what was going on, I learned how to disconnect the wires from the hot button.
mm,
And I would say, at first, I would say, oh, you don't want to fight? Okay, great. And I would hang up on her because,
yeah.
you know, I was still very emotionally involved and I was going to the other extreme. And
Yep.
she called me back and she goes, what the heck did you just do? I'm like, well, you said you didn't want to fight. So I decided I wasn't going to fight. But through that, I started to condition myself to understand that there's differences, that there's things that go about differently.
Yep.
And what would happen was, as I went from, okay, you don't want to fight, and I'd start to talk and whatever. And I understood what I was doing was I was building my emotional strength. So what's that? So number one, I had to first, and I took the word life, L-I-F-E, okay, again,
Yep.
and made it my 4 steps, the Warriors Life Code method to build your emotional strength so you can rule your actions instead of your emotions ruling you.
Mm.
So the first one is L. Listen to your inner voice and acknowledge your emotions. Okay. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm happy. Whatever the situation is, there's a bunch of different emotions. But what are you feeling? Right? There's a difference between emotions and feelings. And if you can put tangible words to them, you're now taking control of them instead of them taking control of you, because you're recognizing. Now, does it happen the first time? No, but you build on this. So the first time is, okay, what am I feeling? Write down, what is that emotion? Then I identify the feelings that go with that emotion. So what am I talking about? You could be angry, but how many different types of anger are there? Maybe 50. I'm just throwing out a number. I don't know the exact number. So I have a chart that says, here's the high types of anger, enraged, and things like that. Then the medium and the low. Okay, I'm a little ticked off. So identify what kind of an emotion, what kind of anger is it in this case that we're talking about. Then find out why. Question yourself. That's the F. Find out why. Question yourself. Almost like you're going to cross-examine yourself. You're on trial with yourself. And you are the prosecutor going after the defense. You're the defense as well. And you're asking yourself, why am I feeling this? Is it helping me to feel this? Is it hurting me to feel this? Whatever it is. And then the last one is E. Engage and change and take action. So I think maybe it's a good idea if I give you an example from my own life so that it just show how I developed this. So after we got divorced, about 2 years later, my son was getting married. And she was living in New Jersey, and my son was living back and forth because he was finishing college in New York. So he was living by me. And one weekend before the wedding, he went to New Jersey to be by his mom's house, whatever. And we have a tradition in our community. It's not always done that you have a lunch, and the groom goes to the synagogue and he goes up to the Torah and all this thing. But it's not always done. So I just assumed, we weren't doing it. My son comes home after the weekend and goes, Dad, I'm so embarrassed. Mommy made lunch. I went up to the Torah. My in-laws were there. You weren't there. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. I said, Caesar, son, it's not you. I'm not upset at you. You did nothing wrong. Now, the old me would have picked up the phone right there and ripped her a new one.
Yep.
What the heck? Now, the wedding was 2 days away. What good would have that done? I would have stroked my ego.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would have said, oh, fantastic. I got to say what I needed to say. And I beat the verbal crap out of her by doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I said, okay, B, L, what am I feeling? Anger. What type of anger? Enraged. Why? Well, she did this. She could have done that. I wrote this down. I said, now the last one. What am I going to do for different? How am I going to engage and change? If I would do it right away, I'd get her upset. I'd get him upset. My daughter-in-law's family would be upset. My family would find out, and there would be this cloud over the wedding.
Yeah.
Right? And who would I be serving? Nobody but my ego. And even that, I'd be walking around, everybody would give me stares of death.
Yep.
So I decided, you know what? I'm going to wait until 2 days after. And I went to a family member that I'm close with, and I said, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm going to do after the wedding. He says, okay, sounds like a plan. 2 days after the wedding, I called her up and I said, listen, this is what you did. This is how I felt. And this is the message you sent to our children. And I went through everything. Whether she heard it or not didn't matter. And I did it a controlled anger. People think that life coaches are teaching people coaching people how never to get angry. No, it's how to understand what your anger is and what to do with it.
Yeah.
And here's the beauty of it. I ended the conversation by telling her, "Thank you for divorcing me."
Mm.
It was a closure for me.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, that's some improvement, especially if you were ripping her a new one immediately when it came down to stuff like that, man. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. So now we know a little bit about how to not allow that emotion to get involved. And it's really just coming back to that awareness, asking the questions, and then taking the action. Yeah.
Right.
There
Right.
we go.
And guys out there, it doesn't happen overnight. It's like muscle memory. Can you pick up 100-pound weights the first time you go to work out?
Nope.
No. You're lucky if you could pick up a 5-pound weight and curl for 20 reps or whatever it is.
Hmm.
You got to build up to it. It's the same thing here. It's brain muscle memory. The first time you're going to do it, you're going to strike out. But if you go back afterwards and look back and say, okay, what did I do? And how can I do it differently next time? The next time you may do 10% better. And you're never going to be 100%. There's going to be something that's going to come up that's going to throw you off.
Hmm.
But if you are 95% better than you used to be, you're doing darn good.
There we go. There we go. Well, what are the highest impact daily actions that will tick the needle forward towards your dreams and goals for you?
Okay. So for me, it starts out every morning waking up and writing in my gratitude journal. I go to a store like a stationery store and I get like a moleskin, a nice quality book. And I write three things I'm grateful for, at least three things, but let's say three. I'm so happy that the sun is shining. I'm so happy my wife made me a cup of coffee. Whatever it is, it could be the most innocuous thing. It's just changing the brain waves
Yep.
into attitude of gratitude,
Yep.
right? And then I pray. I sit down and, like I mentioned, an Orthodox Jew. I put on the tefillin, I put on the shawl, the prayer shawl, and the straps around my hand, and I pray to God 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And that's my time with God, one to one. Me recognizing surrender to God doesn't mean I surrender, take me to jail. It means I'm giving it to God to help me get where I'm going to go. And then I say my mantra. And my mantra is I live incredibly full every day. And then whatever comes to me, I look for the opportunity in it instead of saying, how can I break this down and let my ants in my head, ANT, automatic negative thoughts, not happen? That's what happens. Somebody comes to you with an idea. The first thing is, let me figure out how to break it down that it's no good for me to do.
Yeah. I gotcha. I gotcha. I gotcha. So writing in the gratitude journal, prayer, and that's really all making sure the ants don't take over during the day.
Yep.
I love it,
I'm
man.
not talking about Aunt Tilly.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
It's like that Geico commercial. Oh, we love our new house, but we have an ant problem. And it's like, hello, it's Aunt Mildred here to visit.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's funny. Well, if there were one or two people you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would they be and how would they help you?
Who would I be wow. That's
Well,
if I could be somebody else, or
no,
who
no,
could
no.
who could I emulate?
If you could go meet somebody
Oh,
right
so meet somebody. Okay.
now, so say it's like, a future client, a banker
Gotcha.
for a real
Oh,
estate
wow,
project,
wow, wow, wow.
something,
Interesting.
something. Who
Gotcha.
would that person be, and how would they help you get to your dreams and goals?
I would say one would be I would love to be able to sit down with my dad who passed away about 22 years ago and just say, I get you now better than I ever did before. And can you teach me some of the things that I couldn't hear because I was too proud, too much in my own head. So
Yeah.
that would be somebody. Um, that's a good question. I would think I would like to do like something, be on the Today Show or something, and have someone I can talk to so that I can spread my message, like Jenna Bush or Savannah Guthrie or someone like that. So I can sit down, have a conversation, and spread my message that way.
Okay. Okay. So somebody with a talk show to spread your message.
Right, right.
There we go.
Someone of influence
Yeah.
who gets me, who gets what I'm trying to put out in the world.
I love it. Now we're going to jump into the thriving three. And the first question is, what's your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one of those three.
Book, movie, or podcast. Well, I talked about the Four Agreements,
Mhm.
so that's up there. But there's another book by this woman, Genevieve Davis, called Becoming Magic. And she talks about you have the power within you, have the magic within yourself to become whoever you want. So I would say that that's my top book. My top podcast is with Tim Douglas, of course.
There we go. I love it. And what's one way you like to take care of yourself?
Believe it or not, this has started happening about 6 months, almost a year ago now. Yeah, a year ago. I go for manicures.
Love it.
Every 2 weeks, I go for self care and I get manicures.
There we go.
Often, most often with my wife, but sometimes it just, our schedules don't work out together. And I go and I sit in the chair and I let them do it. And about a month ago, I did something I said I'll never do. I had a pedicure.
I was about to say, do you get a pedicure with it?
That's it. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like pedicure is usually the first one that men
Yeah.
go for.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go.
I don't know. I was kind of afraid to let anybody see my ugly feet.
Yeah. No, I got you. Um, I I personally want to get regular massages,
Nice.
so it's the massage for me. Mani pedi, I think I could see myself enjoying it. Like I'm not opposed to it, but I would go get regular massages before I got regular
All
mani.
right, cool.
So, what's
I
one?
like a massage every once in a while too.
Yep. I've never. Maybe that'll change once I actually get one. I've never had a professional one, so
Oh, okay. All
maybe
right.
that is. What is one action step you can take right now or continue to take if you're already doing it to meet that somebody with a talk show that can help you spread your message?
Okay. Actually, I'm in the process of doing that. So by the time this is aired, my book will have launched. But before the launch, which is on June 14th, okay, June 14th, 2023, my book is going to be on the Times Square billboard. And that morning, we're going to the Today Show Plaza with our books and with our stuff. All the people that are, there's like 30 authors that books are going to be for 2-3 days, each one of us a different day, having our books on the Times Square billboard. So we're going that morning to to go to the Today Show Plaza. So what I'm doing is I'm putting together gift bags for all of the hosts that since I live in New York, I'm going to drop off my book and my cards and put a little note saying, hi, we're going to be on the plaza that day. We'd love for you to acknowledge we're here. That's the first step I'm going to do on that journey. And where it takes us, it takes us.
Yeah, I think that's a great step. I love it. All right, we got our final section of the podcast now. You ready?
I'm ready.
What is one limiting belief that continues to pop up in your life, if any?
So this is a great one because I always thought that this is who I am. And I guess I still do believe it, that I'm a procrastinator.
Mm,
So a couple of years ago, I was in a mastermind. As I was developing my course and what came out of that, my book and my cards, which are all called Warrior to Warrior. Okay, I keep it all consistent. And the leader of the mastermind asked a similar question, and I said, "Well, I'm really a procrastinator." And the two leaders of it started hysterical laughing. They said, Nolan, you don't know what a procrastinator is because you are, my friend, not one who procrastinates.
yeah,
So it's that limiting belief in my head that I procrastinate. And it's me getting over myself that I really don't.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And so where's that come from?
I think it comes from when I was a child. My family always told me I was lazy and immature.
Mm,
So, you believe what the older people around you are telling you. So you go, okay. I'm lazy and immature. So let me live down to what they think I am.
Yeah, I got you. And if you were to change that limiting belief into an abundant phrase that really spoke to your heart in the way that you needed to hear it, what would that phrase be?
I can and will accomplish everything I want in my life.
There we go. There we go. There we go. And when the limiting beliefs start to take control, I feel like we already touched on this a little bit. When those ants start to creep in, right? What thoughts or actions do you resort to in order to take back control, reorient towards abundance?
Right. So it's about me recognizing what's going on, being self aware, and accepting that I'm getting off the path. You ever notice if you try to go from point A to point B in a straight line, you can do it, but things start coming up along the way. And if you go 1 degree off, all of a sudden, what's straight ahead is now 10 degrees that way because one
Mhm.
degree keeps going that way.
Yep.
So if you could stay on the straight and don't allow yourself to detour, and that's me, don't allow myself to detour along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last question. What is your favorite belief about yourself?
My favorite belief about myself would be I am a great I'm trying to put it in the right words. I am able to change people's emotions in a positive way just by being in their presence.
Mm, there we go. Awesome. Well, Martin, that's all we got for you, man.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And just in case anybody's trying to figure out how to find me, they can go to connectwithmartin.com.
There we go.
And you can get some free gifts there, like the Cycle of Ace.
Love it. Love it. Martin, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, Tim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And don't forget, live incredibly full every day.
Live incredibly full every day. If you guys are listening to this and you loved what Martin had to say, make sure to check out the links in the show notes. Man, I just completely blanked. Check out the links in the show notes. The ways to connect with him will be there. Check him out. Buy a book. It's coming out June 14th. Is that right?
That's right.
Coming out June 14th. Buy a copy for yourself, buy a copy for a friend, and make sure to rate and review it. And if you're really loving it, send a copy to some talk show hosts and
That's right.
recommend Martin.
I love it, Tim. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.